Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Secret Base figure preview video. Before we get started, I want to say a massive thank you to Ryan Kirkwood for going out in person to snap these awesome high-res pictures. Show Ryan some love in the comments below, because without him, this series literally wouldn't be possible. Now, we're not only going to be discussing Commander Wolffe today, but the 104th Battalion Wolfpack Clone Trooper as well. If you're interested in either of them, or both, even Plo Koon, I've popped some links to Pop Collectibles in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you decide to buy from them. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. While you're down in the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Star Wars figure preview video goes live on the channel. I think we were all expecting Commander Wolffe after Plo Koon was announced, but the Wolfpack Clone Trooper was a surprise to me. And he's not just a generic Wolfpack Clone Trooper. They've included some named Clone Trooper helmets. Currently on display here he's sporting the Sinker one, but down there's a Phase 2 Comet helmet. So if you wanted to army build, then you could potentially have two Wolfpack Clone Troopers as two different named clones in the collection. Plus there's different weapons. So this is pretty much everything that I've been asking for from them with Clone Troopers. Look, it's not always going to be possible because sometimes clones paint up other bits of their armor, not just their helmets. And I don't see Hot Toys giving us switch out chest plates or shoulder pads. But when it's just the buckets, why not chuck in a few extra ones? Because you've already recouped the mold costs anyway. It's just some different paint applications on the same helmet molds. In terms of weaponry, we get the DC-15 Blaster Carbine and the Blaster Rifle, the really long one. He's currently holding that on display. The Rotary Cannon, this mold we've seen before with the 501st Trooper, if I'm remembering correctly. Because looking at the display now, one of my 501st Troopers is holding this beast of a thing. Then the Rocket Launcher. All of this stuff, reuse. Nothing new here mold-wise. That's why they love making Clone Troopers. Even the jetpack, the blast effects, the backpack, the helmets, the armor, the body, the patterns for the outfits, the display base. Nothing is new. These are so inexpensive for them to produce. The way they're slowly drip-feeding us clones, instead of going all out like Sideshow did back in the day and releasing a bunch of them at the same time, saturating the market, it's not how I would have liked them to do it. I prefer the Sideshow approach, giving us all of them at once. But there's no denying this is the smarter way to make Clone Troopers. Go slow, ensure the demand is there, before you overcommit to a bunch of Clone Trooper announcements. Oh, and the jetpack is held in place with magnets, by the way, whereas the backpack has some real functional straps on it. And you can open it up and store his extra accessories, his spare hands and whatnot inside of it. We only get one Phase 1 helmet. I like the design, I love the weathering, but they still haven't fixed the mouth. The ends of it are meant to come down to really sharp points to be actual live-action Clone Trooper accurate. These are far too thick. They don't terminate in points before they get to the end of the helmet, the edge there. They're thick all the way down. That's not right. They fixed it with some prototypes, but then when we get the final products, they always end up looking like that. Why can't they get this right? Surely they know by now that that is not the correct look for Phase 1 Clone Trooper buckets. But either way, we do get one Phase 1 helmet and two Phase 2 buckets. This one is Comets. Like I said earlier, you can display two different named clones, so that's a win. Great weathering, both on the grey sections at the front and also with the black scratches and pitting. Moving on to his armor before we discuss Sinker's helmet, because he's currently wearing it, so we can't do that right now. The grey is blue in tone. It's like a cool grey, and I love that. It's not 100% animation accurate. I'm looking at some reference pics from Clone Wars right now. The grey was lighter and warmer in tone. They've taken some creative liberties with it, not enough for it to not look like a Wolfpack clone trooper though. You could always argue as well that it was just lighting, scene dependent, the fact that the grey looked different in animation versus now these 1/6 scale figures. There's weathering all over him. It's not too heavy. There are a couple of heavy spots, like right there on his right thigh armor up top, the really big black splotches. But it's mostly just either brown speckling, you can also see that on the thigh armor towards the bottom, or some light black speckling with some very fine, almost hairline scratches. The belt is height adjustable, you'll be able to move that round. I struggle with these Clone Trooper figure preview videos because we've seen so many Clone Troopers. We know what this thing's going to look like in hand. But all we can really discuss today is the way it's been painted. The line work is clean as on the prototype. He also has the symbol on his left shoulder pad. They're likely attached with Velcro or elastic straps, or both, so you'll be able to move them around. And the lighter pitting on the grey bits makes it look like the grey is scuffing or it's coming off, as though this guy's been running around on the battlefield and his armor has been nicked, and maybe there's some carbon scoring there as well. Love using carbon scoring when talking about Star Wars figures. He's got the comms panel on the right gauntlet, but that is not present on the left. The only annoying thing about the way they do battle damage now is all of the scratches and the pitting and whatnot, it's not actually paint. It's tampograph printed on the surface of the armor. It means it's going to be perfect every single time at the factory. There's no variance. There's no variations in terms of the printing or the way stuff is painted. You're not going to get a good one, you're not going to get a bad one. They're all identical. Well, you are going to get a good one, but you know what I'm trying to say. So that means if you decide to pick up two of these, one to display with the Sinker helmet, this, with the Wolffe up front, and the other to have as Comet, all of the weathering is going to be exactly the same. The only difference, the markings and the battle damage on the helmets. That's not going to be a deal breaker for some people. For others, seeing a copy and paste clone trooper with a different helmet isn't going to work for them, and I totally get it. If they went back to hand painting these, there's a chance we'd get some really rough ones. So I'm torn. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you like the tampograph printing? The perfection of it? Meaning there's going to be no bad copies in a batch? Or do you like the artistry of hand painting these? And the charm of seeing different weathering per clone trooper? That's how they used to do it, but for a long time now, it's been automated with tampo printing. Would you believe me if I told you that head sculpts were also not entirely hand painted? Sometimes they are. There's some extra brush work to make them look more realistic, but most of the time, they're molded and cast in skin tone PVC, then the speckling, the different layers of paint, that's printed on the surface. Kind of like how Hasbro do it. Artisan Rooted Hair Joker is a perfect example of that, because you can see the dot printing pattern for his black eye makeup. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. This Wolfpack clone trooper is coming home. Am I going to get two? Am I going to get three? I'll start with one first. Then I'll see if I can find space for a second or third in the collection. Commander Wolffe, though, 100% all in on him. I had the Sideshow Wolffe, but I sold him recently, knowing full well that this was very likely. Plo Koon hadn't been announced yet, but they were announcing clone troopers at a steady pace. We were getting more and more named clones. Wolffe seemed like a sure thing, and there he is, so my gamble paid off in the end. Wolffe has an interesting design for his Phase 2 bucket. I'm a Phase 1 guy. There's no denying that this is the cooler of the two buckets. We'll discuss it in a little bit more detail in just a second. He's mostly using the same armor bits as all of the regular clone troopers, but then again, there's an extra fin or antenna on his left shoulder pad, and he's got a comms panel on his left gauntlet as well, not just the right-hand side. For weaponry, DC-15S blaster carbine, then we've got 2 thermal detonators, a full one, then a half one. The way the weapons have been painted, gunmetal and silver dry brush over the top, jetpack, flame effects, data pad, and the DC-17 blaster pistols that we're used to seeing with clone commanders. Oh, these PVC jetpack blast effects. We get them sometimes, but not always, with characters that come with jetpacks. If you want to use them with the Mandalorian figure that has a jetpack and is perfectly compatible with these, but didn't come with them, it's always good to have spares. Speaking of spares, I was hoping for a full array of hands. Pairs of all of them, for both sides. And did you notice that he doesn't have a closed fist? Not even one this time. We're getting less and less hands with our clone troopers. That is not a trend I want to see them continue. Imagine if one day we only got relaxed open palm hands and trigger finger hands. Because that day could be coming. Don't even think about it, Hot Toys. Go back to giving us more hands. Closed fists are a must. For military hand signals, for clone trooper hand signals, being able to have his closed fist in the air, that means something. That just opens the door for more posing possibilities. Taking closed fists away, never the right call. This is his Phase 1 bucket. He's got the rangefinder. I'm partial to a Phase 1 clone trooper helmet with the fin and the rangefinder, so this is right up my alley. The zigzag pattern on the mandibles, the red triangle or arrow above the visor, and the yellow marks on either side. When this guy arrives, it's going to be a tough decision, picking between this bucket, with the bluish-grey colour scheme, the pops of red and yellow, the Phase 1 visor, the fin, the rangefinder, all of that, everything it has going for it. And this head sculpt, with the scar and the whited out eye, but the other one is movable. He's got one rolling eye, so you'll be able to shift it off to the side, give him a side eye, make for more dynamic posing. The detail is on point, 5 o'clock shadow, wrinkling, heaps of skin texture, great detail for the hair. Yeah, I don't know now. Is it going to be Phase 1, Phase 2, unhelmeted? The clones in my collection, they're a mix of some helmeted and some not. Cody doesn't have his helmet on, Rex doesn't as well, but then the rest do. So if I'm going off the pattern I've already set for my collection, technically, Commander Wolffe should be unhelmeted, yeah? Cody, Rex, and Wolffe. Then if we ever get Bly with an unhelmeted head sculpt, he too should be unhelmeted. We'll see. When I get this guy in hand, I'll make my final decision. Likeness to Tamura Morrison isn't perfect. It's there. I can see it. I can see Tem in this sculpt. But not from all angles. It could be the hairstyle or the whited out eye that's throwing it off just a little. His boots are painted in a different color compared to the 104th clone. They're that bluish grey with an even darker bluish grey for the soles at the bottom. Plenty of weathering, some speckling of dirt and grime, and that white chipping effect. It's one of their most realistic paint application processes. So it comes across, I said this earlier, but once more, like the grey paint apps that Wolffe has put on his armor are chipping and scuffing and wearing away on the battlefield. It adds some more visual interest to the surface of his armor, and it helps this outfit tell a story. If he was brand new, clean, pristine looking, that doesn't scream Clone Commander. This, with how dirty the outfit is, does, because he's seen action he's kicked some ass. He's destroyed quite a few clankers in his day, which I wish we would get more of. We still don't have regular tan battle droids at the time of filming this video in 2025. We got the Geonosis ones, not the regular ones. His armor is made of fabric. No neoprene, no weird rubbery stuff, no pleather. It's not going to crack or degrade or just destroy itself over time. That might sound ridiculous, but no. Some of the Sideshow clone troopers in my collection, their armors were made out of a pleathery style material, and they're cracking, and they're degrading, like I said, destroying themselves over time. Not good enough. This is the way to do karmas. But wire them, or even include a switch-out karma with wires in it. These, they just drape there. They look natural, they hug the body, they don't flare out, so those are all wins. For dynamic posing, I would like to be able to get them billowing off in the wind, and that way for figure photography, you could use the karmas to sell the illusion of Commander Wolffe doing something where he's spinning round and the karma is moving along with him. You can't do that unless you attempt to wire it yourself. Not something I've given a go ever. Maybe with Wolffe here. His chest armor is multiple different pieces. The ab section slots underneath the chest armor. You'll be able to adjust them for dynamic posing. Shoulder pads are on elastic straps. Different markings compared to the 104th Battalion clone. So Wolffe is distinct in his look. Which is why, if I had to pick between Wolffe or the 104th clone, I couldn't get both of them. I reckon Wolffe works better on his own next to Plo Koon versus a 104th clone next to Plo. That's still fine, totally doable, and it makes sense. But why wouldn't you want Commander Wolffe? So if you're sitting here right now, scratching your head, knowing full well you only have space or funds for one of these two, get Wolffe. You know that having a clone commander in your display next to Plo Koon makes a hell of a lot more sense than a just basic 104th clone trooper. Still a named character, Sinker or Comet, nowhere near as iconic for me as Commander Wolffe is. And the whole Dave Filoni connection with Wolffe, that just adds to the reasons to get this guy. So Wolffe is the shit, is what I'm trying to say. This bucket alone makes him worth getting, because it's so different. The only regular Phase 2 clone stuff I can spot on this helmet, the top of it, and the side earpieces. The mouth area, completely new for Wolffe. And the visor is a lot smaller. It's got these jagged bits underneath it, but it's still a separate inset piece of glossy plastic, so there's an actual seam around the edge, making that look more realistic. We've got the rangefinder, same as Phase 1, but it's painted differently. It's more grey versus the Phase 1 rangefinder. And he retains the markings, with the red arrow and the yellow stripes. The yellow stripes are less vibrant, they're also smaller and there's less of them. They're still there though. So I was torn earlier between Phase 1 unhelmeted and Phase 2. I think how I'm going to display him right now, if I had to guess, is unhelmeted head sculpt holding the Phase 2 bucket. Then the Phase 1 can go back in the box or maybe in one of my accessory storage tubs. Oh, and for those wondering, the rangefinder is articulated. You can bring it down if you want to have him leaning forward to make it look like he's about to shoot the rocket out of his jetpack. These clones, they're must-haves for me. But once more, if you can only get one, make it Commander Wolffe. It has to be Wolffe. He's a total badass. Go and watch Clone Wars if you don't believe me. Now I'm going to pre-order mine from Pop Collectibles. I've popped a link to their site in the description, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you decide to buy from them. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.